Okay, I'm going to show you guys what we did on Tuesday in class, February the 2nd. Show you guys two projects that we worked on. One is a simple key plate and two color fields, and the other is a little bit more complex with some halftones, and we're actually going to use non-destructive layer mask and groupings. I didn't show you guys that in class, but I think it's a good habit to get into, to use groups and to use layer mask. So let's start off with the key plate. Key plate is going to be the black outline that goes around the color fields. Simple drawing. I'm going to use this pinup girl that our industrial design student alumni, Danny Perry, drew. I swiped this off of his Instagram without permission. Sorry, Danny. The first thing that I need to do, I'm going to straighten this up, and then I'm going to get it to be 100% black and 100% white. And that is for the purposes of putting it on the light table. So first let's start with straightening it. Okay, and now we're going to go ahead and crop this guy down. And once it's here, I'm going to go ahead and resize it, make sure that it is at the size that I want to work at. Now this will work with an image that you find off of Google image search, or something that you scan out of a book, or a hand drawing that you did. It doesn't really matter. It can be pen, pencil. It doesn't matter, because once we come in here and we adjust everything and we do that, we're going to get it to be black and white. So we go to image size, and we want to make sure that we're working at 300 dpi. Alright, and go ahead and set it at the scale that we want to print it at. Something like 8 by 10, 8 by 11. That's great. That's about the size that I want. Now you see, once we zoom in, you can see that this is not 100% black. There's a lot of grays in there. Some of this stuff is a little bit too light. If we were to try to burn our screen like this, it's going to create problems and potentially ruin the screen. So I want to make sure that that line right there is black. I want to make sure all the lines in our hand are black, and then all of this background will be white. The easiest way to do that, image adjustments and threshold. So you can see once I do that, you have this little slider. You can move this back and forth. I want to move it to the point where I'm not losing any of the lines in our hand. I'm not losing any of these little motion lines or the lines in the outline of her clothes. I'm going to slide that up, and it's starting to look pretty good. Now if you take it too far, everything gets way too thick. So there's a fine balance there. This looks pretty good. Down a little bit. Okay. And then I can just clean this up right here with the pencil tool. Put it on pencil, put it on white, and there we go. Okay, so now I have a black and white outline. This is ready to print if you only wanted to print a black and white image. But we're going to challenge ourselves, and we're going to say we're going to do 3 colors. So I will make her shirt yellow, and I'll make her shorts blue. I'm going to show you 2 different methods. I like to work in vector, so maybe I'll change the outline to vector. You do not have to do this. This is a raster image. This is 100% fine to print. Like I said, this is ready to go. But if I wanted to convert this to a vector, I'll show you how to do that, and then I'm going to make a vector shape for her shorts. So first, converting the drawing to a vector. How do you do that? If you're in Illustrator, there's an easy command called live trace. You can do that. In Photoshop, they don't have an easy command, so I'm going to put it on the magic wand tool, and I'll just make sure these guys are unclicked. And I'm going to select something that's black in the image. Any part of the outline that's black. You can see all the little marching ants going around. And now, if I right-click on the black, I can come down and say make work path. Now, this tolerance here, this is how many pixels your vector line is going to go around. So 2 pixels, the higher this number, the more it's going to look like a jagged woodcut. The smaller the number, the more it's going to look like the original drawing. So I like to give it a little bit of leeway. It smooths out some of the roughness of the pixels. So we'll say 2. Say OK. Your computer will think about it. And now I can zoom in. And the benefit of working in vector, other than resizing and not losing any sort of resolution, is now I can work on individual pixels, individual points. I can come down here and I can make adjustments like this. That tends to be really, really handy. And I'll show you, once I make that into a shape, it'll make a lot more sense. Over here under paths, you can see there's my work path. I'll click it and name that path 1. That's totally fine. And then I need to come over here. I need to make a shape layer. I need somewhere that I can place all of this information. So go to the pen tool and just make a point. And now shape 1 is there. Make sure that's on shape. Under fill, I'm going to fill that with black paint. No stroke is necessary. Come back over here to paths. Remember, I've got path 1. That's the information of the drawing. And we've got shape 1. The only thing that exists there is this vector point. So back under path, put it on path 1, edit, cut, and now put it on shape 1. There we are. Edit, paste. Now all of our information is on shape 1. I can turn off my background, I can turn off the raster, and now remember when I grab that point, if I come back in, I can grab an individual point and I can adjust that. And that's really, really handy at times. And if I enlarge this, I won't lose any resolution because it is now a vector. I don't want to see this checkerboard thing, so I'm going to go ahead and create a new layer. This is just going to be a representation of my paper. I'll move that down there, and I'm just going to fill it with white paint. Sorry. Fill it with white paint. There we go. Okay, so I've got my paper and I've got my black ink. And now I'm going to fill in her shorts and I'm going to fill in her shirt. Like I said, we're going to do blue shorts and we're going to do a yellow shirt. I'll show you two different methods. The method that I most likely would use, because I prefer to work in vector, will be the pen tool. So I'll come back to the pen tool, we'll say shape, and we've got this bluish green color in the fill. If you've never used the pen tool, the first couple times can be a bit tricky just getting the hang of the controls. A little practice and you'll get the hang of it. So I'm just going to draw a line directly around her shorts. I'm going to do this fairly quickly, and we may go out of the lines. It'll be okay. Now you can see I'm not trying to stay inside the lines, and I'm not going outside of the lines. What I want to do is kind of split that key plate line, split this black line. And what that does is that gives me a little bit of leeway. That gives me a little wiggle room for if I don't 100% register my layers properly, I won't have an odd white space right here. So because the blue and the black overlap a bit, it gives me the ability to mess up. Okay, so now I've got a blue vector shape. If I don't like that blue, I can come in here and I can click and I can adjust. This is another great benefit of having vector files. It's just the ease of color change. And now I'm going to show you a different method for coloring in her shirt. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to select a yellow that I like, a little bit lighter. There we go. And I'm going to make a new layer, then we're going to name it yellow. Okay, so we've got our blue layer and we've got our black layer. And now under the yellow layer, if I'm not interested in working in vector form, if I'm not great at the pen tool and I just refuse to learn new things, I can go to the paint bucket, and I want to make sure that contiguous is on and all layers is on, because I'm just going to dump paint and I'm going to use the black as a reference, but I need it on another layer. So I'm going to put the paint on the yellow layer but use the lines on the black layer as a reference. This guy needs to be clicked, this guy needs to be clicked. And I can just start dropping paint. Now the problem is, if I turn this off, you can see it follows the lines 100% accurately. Now if you were the most amazing screen printer in the world, that's not a big deal because your registration is always going to be 100%, but you'll never never achieve that. So now if your registration is just a hair off, just a pixel off, you get this white line going around, you get this white line, you get that, and it just looks very, very amateur. How do you get around that? I'll show you. Come over here, right click, go to blending options, and click stroke. Now under stroke, just select the exact same color that you're working with, say OK. Make sure that the stroke is on the outside. The pixel size, yeah, you can adjust this a bit. If you need as a reference, you can turn the opacity on the black down or something like that, and you can tell. I know 8 is about right. There's a little bit of space inside of here. We can fix that with a pencil, paint bucket, or paintbrush. Now I turn that back on. And if I were to put this underneath, and I stick this on multiply, there you go, blend mode is on multiply, I stick this on multiply, I can actually see what it's going to look like, because I can see through that yellow now, and I can see the black. That looks pretty good. And now if my registration is just a hair off, you can't even tell. Totally fine. So make sure that your color fields are overlapping your key plate just a bit. I'm going to move this back up to the top. I try to keep my layers in the order that I believe I'm going to print. So paper, I will probably print blue next. I will probably print yellow next. And I will definitely print black last. So fit this on the screen. This looks pretty good. Let's say that we're ready to print. I need to print my clear film. The way that I go about printing my clear film, I'm going to go to canvas size, make my canvas twice as wide, 16 inches wide. There we go. And I'm going to drag the two color fields away from the key plate. Move tool, drag this up here, and drag this down here. So the blue is going to be really easy. Just double click, drag that down, make it 100% black. Bottom left corner, RGB is 000. OK. Now onto the yellow. You'll have to put it on black. Bottom left, 000. And I'm going to magic wand this, or paint bucket this. Sorry. Now you can see my stroke is still yellow. That's easy to change. Bottom left. OK. So now this is ready to print. This is ready to take into the plotter. Save this as a PDF, take it to the plotter, print this on clear film, and then we can burn our screen. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out. This is the easiest way that you guys can set up a file for printing. I highly recommend this is how you start. Save changes? No. Okay. I was also asked about this print here. When we were looking through examples, this one popped up on the aesthetic apparatus Instagram, and I'm going to show you guys how I would set up something like this. I did the tear in a destructive manner in class. I'll show you guys how to use layer mask and groups to achieve this tear this time. First thing I want to do, image, I need to make a new piece of paper here, and we got 18 by 24. I'm going to go ahead and set the blue layer up first. To do that, I want to have 1-inch borders all the way around, view, new guides, and I'm going to go ahead and put a 1-inch border all the way around with my guides. Okay, there we are. And first thing we're going to do is we'll make a blue rectangle, and then we're going to bring this woman's head in, and we'll put a little bit of type up there. We're going to put those into a group, and then we will apply a layer mask in the form of the tear coming down just like that, in that order. So blue layer, we'll use the same colors, eyedropper, come up here. I'm just going to use pixels for this, so rectangle tool, keep it on pixels. I need to make a new layer. I'm not using shortcuts. If you guys want to use shortcuts, you can, Shift Control N, just like it says right there. I'm trying to do this so that everybody can see exactly what I'm doing just through video. Okay, blue layer, and now the next thing we need is a woman's head. I have saved some images of women's heads. We'll use this one. I'm going to crop this out. And I'm going to flip this horizontally. Okay, I need to get rid of the blue and the green here. I'm going to put it on my quick selection tool, and then I'm just going to come around. There's going to be 100 ways that you guys could do this. This is a pretty easy way. And you see I just grabbed part of her hair that I don't want. Just hold down Alt, and it'll add that back in. And now what I want to do is delete all of that. Just going to click, unlock my layer. I'm just going to click delete. There we go. So all of this is now deleted. It's just the woman's head. We'll deselect everything. I need to make this grayscale now. And I need to make sure that I am working at the size that I want to work at. Once I turn this into a halftone, you can see there's a lot of grays in there. From the previous project, we know that it has to be 100% black or white for burning the screen. To do that, we're going to turn it into a halftone, which is a series of black dots. This has got lots of grays. But before I turn it into the dots, I need to have it at the size that I want. So according to our canvas, according to our source material, it looks like it's going to be about 16 inches wide. Come back in here, and I'm going to go to image size. Make sure your resolution is at 300, and the width, we'll put it at 16. Say OK. Okay, so she enlarges a bit. And I want to adjust the contrast a bit. I would like to have it as high contrast as I can get it without it starting to look a little bit ridiculous. I want to keep some of these grays. I don't want it to look too harsh, but I'd like to have 100% black and 100% white. The way that I would do that would be image adjustments and curves. So if you come over here to curves, now if I select this little black eyedropper and I select something, I say I want this to be 100% black, it'll change everything that's that shade to black, and it'll adjust everything else accordingly. Then I select the white one. We want to make sure her teeth are white, so we select that, and it'll adjust everything accordingly. So we say OK. So now we know we've got 100% black, 100% white in the same image. We've lost a little bit in her hair. I'm not sure I want to lose that much in her hair, so I'm going to do that again. Adjustments, curves, black is good. And I want to keep some of this gray in her hair here. That's much better. Okay. And now I want to turn it into tiny dots. So this is where you come up, image, mode, bitmap. Flatten layers, yes. So the input's 300 because we're working at 300 dpi, the output is 300. The first time you do this, method will be set to diffusion dither. We want to change that to halftone screen, and we'll say OK. This little box here will pop up. Now the angle, once we get into printing CMYK halftones, this angle is going to change for each color. But for black and white, I prefer 22.5. I think that the pattern that the dots are set at with 22.5 looks fairly good. And the frequency is your resolution in a way. The frequency is the dot size. So the lower the frequency, the larger the dots are going to be. The higher the frequency, the smaller the dots are going to be. With lower dots, you're going to get, a kind of a cartoonish Roy Lichtenstein look. The higher the dots, it'll look a little bit more photorealistic. Your screen is only capable of printing a certain size dot. You can't get so small. You can't have super photorealistic if you're using a 158 or a 180 mesh screen. So there's actually a formula. If you say your mesh count divided by 4.5, that'll give you the absolute best that you can print. And it's going to fall around 30, 32, something like that, depending on your mesh count. I actually wouldn't go that high. I would stick somewhere between 23 and 28. We're going to do 26 for right now, and it's going to work pretty well. Say okay. So now I can zoom in, and you can see that it's only little black dots on a white field, like an old newspaper. Okay, I'm going to show you this. We want to bring this image over here, and we're going to place it down here in the bottom left corner. If I put it on my move tool and I try to drag it over, you can't do it. And that's because we haven't changed the mode back to grayscale. It's difficult to work in with the bitmap, so I'm going to change it back to grayscale, size ratio 1, yes, and now there we go. I'm going to close her out. We don't need the original file anymore. Save changes, no. And then I'm going to drag her down somewhere right around here. Let her hair go off the page. Get her hand there. I want to delete all of this, so we'll just select delete and select delete. Okay, put this on multiply. That'll allow you to see through the white. There we go. We are going to need some type up on the top. Doesn't really matter what this says, so I'll put it on my type tool. Put it on black and white. Put the size around 200 pixels. Future is great. And I just go ahead and write some text up here. So you can do whatever you like. This other one's got another little halftone thing, oven mitt or something, not sure. You can do that if you want. Just do it the exact same way that you did with the lady's head. Okay, the next thing that we want to do is we want this tear coming down through the blue and through the black. So to do that, we're going to use a layer mask. But we want to layer mask the type, the halftone, and the blue. So how do we do that? We put all of those things into a group. I will select all of them. I will move those into a group. And now on the group, keep them in the same layer, keep them in the same order. In the group, I will apply a layer mask. So what a layer mask is a non-destructive way of erasing. Anywhere that I put black in the layer mask, it will erase. And then anywhere that I put white, it will add it back in. That's obviously not what we want. We want it to be a tear coming down. So I've got this image of a tear that I found on Google Images. There we go. I'm going to resize this before I start working with it. Image size, we'll say 300, just to get it a little bit bigger. I'm sure I'll have to resize it once I get in there. And I want to get rid of this little checkerboard kind of deal here. So I'll just threshold those away too. Perfect. Okay. I'm going to drag this over. I'm just using this as a source for making my layer mask. So what I'm going to do is select this, and we're going to transform it around. And then I'm going to enlarge it. If you want, you can turn the opacity down so you can kind of see through it a little bit. That works quite well. And we want to see, where do we want that tear to be? You know, I think it needs to take a little bit more of her hair away. Something like this. Yeah, I like that. So we're losing a lot of our type. If you wanted to adjust this, you can make a new rip. Doesn't really matter. Say OK. So come off of there. Deselect this. And now I want my layer mask to be all of this over here. How do I do that? Turn my opacity back up. And I'm just going to magic wand the white. Magic wand the white. Now I'm on this layer, so there we go. I can turn this off. I'm going to take that out of the group. I don't need that anymore. And I need to add this little corner into my selection. So I'll just put it on the marquee tool. Hold down Shift. And just select all of that stuff. Perfect. Okay, so all of this is selected. I come back up here to my layer mask on my group. Put it on Paint Bucket. Black paint. forgot to do this. You have to unclick contiguous, unclick all layers, put it on the layer mask, and you just pour your black paint. So now we've got this rip coming down. All of the information is still there, it's just hidden by that layer mask. And you can adjust that anytime that you want. So I'm going to deselect this. Okay. So what's next? Now we have our yellow. To get the yellow, I'm going to make a new layer. Okay? And I do not want it in the same group. Do not want it in the same group. Okay. Just being stubborn. There we go. Okay, so this is going to be yellow. Now for this, it looks like there's another rip right around here. I'm going to just fill this entire portion with yellow, and I'm going to do it this way. I'll select, make a selection here, just so it doesn't go outside of the border. Put it back on my paint bucket tool. I need to select this yellow so I know what color paint I'm going to use. Put it on my paint bucket, and now I want to have both of these selected. So it's going to be contained inside of my marching ants and contained inside of this blue on the yellow, just like that. Perfect. And now I want to have a rip coming up through here. So the exact same way, I believe I closed. No, I didn't. There we go. And instead of doing a layer mask for this one, because it's only one layer, or instead of doing a group for this one, since it's only one layer, or a layer mask, I'm just going to show you the Mickey Mouse way of doing it. And that's going to be, select this black, turn this off now, put it on the yellow, and just click delete. Deselect that, and I'm going to delete these two layers. Delete, delete. I need to get rid of this down here also, so I can just erase it. Get rid of all of this. Now, printing this yellow is going to be tricky, and I'll explain why. This yellow is lined up 100% accurate with the blue and the black, so it's going to be quite difficult to make sure that your alignment is that accurate. So depending on what order you print things in, you can expand one of these colors. I'm going to expand the yellow since it's underneath of all of this stuff up here should be on normal now. Normal, that is on multiply, that'll be fine with the black. So then on the yellow, what I would do would be put it on the pencil tool, turn caps lock off here. And I'm just going to zoom in, and then I can paint underneath of. And so there's a little bit of overlap. And if you want to see this, if I go to the blue and I turn my opacity down, now you can see that I'm overlapping. So now I get a little bit of leeway. And like I said before, there's going to be, there's going to be 100 different ways that you can do this. This is just a really, really fast way of doing it. I believe I need a larger lead. And we're going to come down. And it doesn't matter if you're, how accurate you are with this, because the whole point is just to have something where that the blue can overlap. So you can come down, a little bit further if you like. And you can be a little bit more careful than what I'm being right now. But this is pretty good. So I'm going to come back up here to the blue, and I'm going to turn the opacity back up to where it needs to be. So this is what we have. This is our source material. This is where we're at right now. So The only two things that we need to add is maybe another layer to the black with the letter, a number 9 and a dollar symbol, a little floral pattern, and then we can delete part of that out, and a woman's face. So the woman's face will be super easy. We go down here to open. We've got this lady's head here. We're going to go ahead and crop it, and this is going to be the exact same method as what we did before. We've got this, crop. Now we know this is going to be 5, maybe 6 inches wide. Image size 300, and the width, yeah, 5.7. That's perfect. And I'm going to be really quick with this. Grayscale, discard. Not even going to bother adjusting any of that. Bitmap. 300, halftone screen. Same numbers. Okay. It's just a little bit rougher because it's much smaller. I actually do prefer to get rid of this gray. I don't want those dots over there. So I'm going to back up one step, and I'm going to paint bucket some white in there. That's much better. Okay, so now all we have to do is drag that. Once again, mode grayscale. Drag this over here. We'll close this out. We do not need that anymore. Okay, and then we're going to have this somewhere over there. I'm going to move my group below, and then I will move this where we can see it. Something like this. Okay, now I need to delete everything that's not inside of the yellow. So, magic wand, right there, right click, select inverse, put it on the black, and delete. So now we've got this. It's a little weird down here. We could have probably cropped that, slightly different. Not going to be too concerned with it. Deselect. Now we need a floral pattern. The floral pattern is going to take up this entire selection. File, open. We've got a floral pattern saved that we want to use. Image size, that's going to be 12 by 12. That's probably big enough. We'll say OK, and we're going to test it out. Drag that whole thing over there. Close this original. It's a little bit small. We can just enlarge it. Free transform, and I grow that out. Okay, that's good enough. Select, deselect. Alright, so what we need to do, we're going to turn this off, we will turn this off, and we will turn this off, and I'm going to select just this white here. So, contiguous, sample all layers. I'm going to select just the white, turn this back on, select inverse, and delete. There we go. Now you can see there's a little bit outside of that border. That's easy to take care of. Delete. Select, deselect, and now I can put this on multiply. I can see through it, put the lady's head back on. That's a little bit messy. It's the scale of the image that's kind of given us trouble. For that, I would recommend, on the original here, you can see that they've cut some of this out. So we'll try that. We'll see how this looks. On the floral pattern, we want to keep some of her head. So maybe we just cut out a little rectangle and delete it. That's not too bad. And now we're going to need a really large letter, maybe 9 cents. Or $9. $9. And we're going to make this large. Much larger than what the original text was. 300 pixels. Sounds great. Move this over. Okay. And this needs to be black. Alright. And I'm going to slide this somewhere where I like it. Okay, and now we go back to our source material. This is what we've got. We've got some text up here. We've got a halftone of a lady's face. We've got the blue tear. We've got a yellow field. And this is what we've recreated really, really quickly. I think the scale's off on what we did, but you understand all of the process of how you could get there. This was really quick. And then we would need to separate this into the individual, save all of the black on one layer, save all of the blue on one layer, and save all of the yellow on the other layer. Do the exact same thing that we did on the file before. You'll be ready to go. So what we went over: how to do halftones, how to do layer mask, how to do groups, how to do threshold, how to convert line drawing, excuse me, a line drawing into vector, and then how to set it up for taking it to the plotter. All right. Let me know if you guys have any questions. We'll go over more stuff next week.